I was in the garage on a Sunday afternoon, elbows deep in our lawnmower, when Annabelle burst in like she was about to deliver a manifesto. She had that look, eyes bright, chin up, fresh from 2 days of binge listening to feminist podcasts that told her men have it easy and women carry the invisible load. "Ron," she said, planting her hands on her hips, "we need to recalibrate our relationship dynamics." I looked up, covered in grease, sweat dripping down my back, carburetor parts scattered like confetti. She, meanwhile, stood spotless in a yoga outfit that had never seen actual yoga. "Good afternoon to you too," I muttered. "I'm serious," she pushed. "I've been thinking. Our division of labor is unfair. I do the invisible work, schedules, social life, the home, while you just go to your job and play with cars." "Invisible work?" I raised an eyebrow. "Annabelle, I manage a service shop where people scream at me because their warranty doesn't cover an oil leak. I juggle 6 mechanics who argue like children, suppliers who lie about shipping times, and customers who think their check engine light is a death sentence. But sure, tell me more about invisible labor." She lifted her chin higher. "Exactly. You get credit for everything because it's visible. I hold this house together behind the scenes. Without me, birthdays wouldn't be remembered, groceries wouldn't get bought, and the house would fall apart." I stared at her. "Yeah, because without your contribution of picking what wine to bring to Julie's birthday dinner, civilization collapses." Her jaw clenched. "We need to switch roles. 1 week, I'll do what you do. You'll do what I do." I studied her, then smiled slowly. Not a friendly smile, the kind you give when you've just realized your opponent walked right into the trap you were building for years. "Everything I do?" I asked. "Yes," she said firmly. "The shop, the finances, the bills, the house repairs, the cars, everything. And I'll handle cooking, laundry, vacuuming, organizing your social calendar?" "Exactly. 7 days. No quitting, no complaints. Deal." She grinned like she'd just won a prize. I wiped my hands on a rag and shook her hand, smearing grease across her perfect skin. She barely noticed. She was too busy imagining her grand victory. What she didn't realize was that I just agreed to the easiest win of my life. That evening over dinner, she leaned back smugly. "This will be good for us. It'll open your eyes to what I do every day." "Absolutely," I said. "Can't wait to collapse under the weight of wiping counters." "See? You don't value it." "I will by tomorrow," I said, and meant it. Not in the way she thought. After dinner, I headed to my office. If Annabelle wanted to live my life for a week, she was getting the full package. I started assembling her survival kit: schedules, client contact sheets, open repair orders, supplier numbers, the warranty dispute log, payroll spreadsheets. I even added reminders for the tax payment due this week and the overdue brake job on a customer's Ford truck. A sticky note on the binder read, "Welcome to Ron's life. Good luck." She laughed when I handed it over. "Cute. Like homework?" "Exactly. Study it." Later, over wine, I walked her through the week. Wake up at 5. Be at the shop by 6:30. Mechanics will expect instructions on jobs left from last night. Client calls start early, especially the angry ones. Don't forget warranty claims. Those reps eat amateurs alive. Tuesday, you've got a parts negotiation. Supplier will try to stick you with cheap aftermarket stuff at premium price. Thursday, corporate audit for safety. Friday's payroll and 2 regulars coming in who always argue about their bill. You'll love them. Her glass slowed halfway to her lips. "It can't be that bad." "Sure," I said, "and I'll be bravely tackling the dishwasher." She flipped through the schedule, her expression faltering as the red notes stacked up. "I'll manage," she said, though it sounded more like a question. "I know you will," I answered with a smile that told her she wouldn't. At 10 p.m. we set our alarms. Hers, 5 in the morning, mine, 7. I didn't even try to hide my grin. For years, my work had been minimized as just your job. Tomorrow morning, Annabelle was going to find out what my job really meant. As we turned off the lights, she whispered, "I can't wait to prove my point." I smiled into the dark. Me too. By noon tomorrow, her feminist podcast heroes would already sound like bad comedians. Annabelle's alarm exploded at 5 in the morning like a fire drill. She groaned into the pillow, slapped her phone 3 times before finding the off button, and sat up like a zombie that regretted crawling out of the grave. "Rise and shine," I said cheerfully from the warm side of the bed. "Big day at the shop?" "Don't talk to me," she mumbled, stumbling toward the bathroom. 20 minutes later, she emerged wearing designer jeans, a silk blouse, and flats that had never met a puddle. I looked her up and down. "Perfect. You'll blend right in with grease monkeys and oil stains." She glared, disappeared again, and finally re-emerged in one of my old work shirts, baggy cargo pants, and boots 2 sizes too big. She looked like a kid playing dress-up for career day. At 6:30, she left in my truck. I stayed in bed until 7, then made myself a real breakfast. Not the rushed toast I usually grabbed on the way out, but eggs, bacon, hot coffee, the works. The silence in the house was almost luxurious. By 9:30, I had completed every household task she always complained about. Dishes, done. Laundry, folded. Living room, spotless. With hours left in the day, I organized the pantry, fixed the squeaky closet door, and replaced 2 burned-out bulbs she'd been ignoring for months. At noon, my phone buzzed. It was Mike, my lead mechanic. "Boss, is your wife serious about this swap?" I grinned. "Why?" "She's been sitting in your office for an hour making calls. Tried to explain a warranty claim to the rep, got confused about the VIN number, then handed the phone to me. The rep hung up. She also told a customer their car would be ready in an hour for a transmission rebuild." I bit my lip to hold back a laugh. "Put her on." A moment later, I heard Annabelle's voice, tight with stress. "Ron, these people don't listen to me. They keep asking for things I've never heard of. The mechanics ignore me. The parts guy was rude. This is impossible." "Welcome to Monday," I said. "Remember when you said anyone could do my job with minimal training?" "This isn't fair," she snapped. "You've been doing this for years. I don't know all the codes or procedures." "Oh, so now it's difficult?" I asked sweetly. "Yesterday you called it just cars and paperwork." She went silent. Pride wouldn't let her quit on day 1. "No," she finally said. "I made a commitment." "Good. The brake job on the Ford F-150 is at 2. Make sure the crew checks the rotors before they call the customer. They'll try to skip it. I don't even know what that means." "You'll figure it out." I hung up, stirred my stew, and slid fresh bread into the oven. Scratch cooking. The kind she always claimed was too time-consuming. Turns out it wasn't, if you weren't stuck at a shop 12 hours a day. At 7 that evening, I heard her pull into the driveway. The door opened, and Annabelle shuffled in looking like she had gone 12 rounds in a grease pit. Her borrowed boots were stained, her hair frizzed out from the shop's heat, and her face had the same 1,000-yard stare I'd worn for years. I set the table. A steaming pot of stew, fresh bread, salad, even a bottle of wine already breathing. She stopped in the doorway, blinking. When did you? "Oh, I finished your tasks by mid-morning," I said casually. "Plenty of time to clean the house, organize the pantry, fix the closet, swap light bulbs, and still bake bread. How was your day?" She collapsed into a chair and poured herself half a glass of wine in one go. "Don't ask," she muttered. "One customer threatened to sue because I couldn't explain a repair. Mike had to step in. I signed off on an order I didn't understand. The mechanics laughed at me, and some warranty rep called me clueless." I nodded sympathetically. "Sounds like a normal Monday." Her eyes flicked from the spotless house to the table set like a magazine spread, then down at her oil-stained shirt. The first crack appeared in her expression, humility mixed with disbelief. "I'll do better tomorrow," she whispered, like she was trying to convince herself. "Of course you will," I said, breaking a piece of bread. Tomorrow's going to be even more fun." She groaned. I smiled. Day 1 was just the appetizer. Annabelle's alarm went off again at 5. This time she didn't even pretend to be excited. She groaned like someone being dragged to their own execution, then sat on the edge of the bed, holding her face in her hands. "You'll be fine," I said, sipping the coffee I had brewed for myself. "Day 2 is always easier." "Why do you sound so smug?" she asked, pulling on my old work shirt again. "Because you're about to meet reality on steroids." By 6:30, she was gone. I took my time with breakfast, cleaned the kitchen again just to enjoy the shine, and settled in with the newspaper like a retired man. At 8, my phone lit up. "Ron!" she hissed into the receiver. I could hear engines revving and men shouting in the background. "Some customer is screaming that his car isn't ready, but nobody told me it was even in the shop. And a parts supplier just called asking about an order. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. Something about back-ordered fuel pumps. Then a warranty rep asked for codes I've never seen in my life." "Ah," I said. "Tuesday mornings, always fun. Did you check the order sheets I gave you? You mean the 100-page binder? I don't have time to read a novel." "Well, I do. Every weekend, so I know what's coming." There was silence on the line, just her ragged breathing. Then, "This isn't fair. You've had years of experience, and you told me yesterday it wasn't that hard." "Don't start," she snapped. "Are you quitting?" I asked calmly. "No," she shot back, voice trembling. "I said I'd do 7 days." "Good. Then handle the Ford recall this morning, and don't forget payroll. The guys want their checks." "Payroll?" "Yep. I'll call you at lunch." I hung up, leaned back, and started reorganizing the linen closet. It was almost relaxing to know I could get through half the house before she even figured out which mechanic was named Luis and which one was Jorge. By noon, my phone buzzed again. "Ron," she yelled. "The warranty inspector failed a claim because I didn't provide the right documentation. Now the customer is furious. The mechanics are standing around because I don't know what to tell them. This is a disaster. A $5,000 disaster." "Put Mike on the phone," I said. Mike's steady voice came on. "Boss, she's drowning." Inspector flagged the repair order. "It's legit, but we can appeal." I gave him quick instructions, then got Annabelle back. "You can fix this," I told her. "No, I can't," she cried. "I'm useless here. They all know it." "Annabelle, listen, quitting now means you admit you can't do what I do. Is that what you want?" Silence, then a broken, "No." "Good. Stay put. Let Mike run the floor. You shadow him." Learn by 7, she stumbled through the front door like a soldier returning from battle. She dropped her borrowed boots in the hallway, collapsed onto the couch and whispered, "I can't do 5 more days of this. Please, Ron, let's stop." I sat next to her, calm. Day 2 was always going to be the hardest. But if we quit now, you'll never understand what I deal with. Tears welled in her eyes. "I get it already. Your job is impossible." "It's not impossible," I corrected gently. "It's demanding. And I do it because that's what it takes." She wiped her face, staring at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I smiled faintly. "Tomorrow will be different. No greasy floors, just finances, calls, insurance. You'll love it." Her relief was visible, though I knew she was walking into a whole new kind of nightmare. By the morning of day 3, Annabelle looked like she had aged 10 years in 48 hours. She didn't fight the alarm this time. She just groaned, rolled out of bed, and shuffled to the kitchen like a prisoner headed for roll call. I had a pot of coffee waiting and a leather folder sitting on the table. She eyed it like it might explode. "What's that?" she asked suspiciously. "Your schedule for today?" I said, pushing it toward her. She opened it and froze. Bank statements, account spreadsheets, warranty disputes, insurance papers, tax reminders. "This looks like something a lawyer would charge $200 an hour for," she whispered. "Exactly. Except I do it for free. Every week she flipped through the stack, her hands trembling. There are like 100 pages here. Closer to 120. But don't worry, you only need to reconcile the accounts, transfer $4,700 for property tax, handle the insurance dispute from last year, and call the bank about the contractor deposit. Her eyes nearly popped out. 4,700? Property tax? Tomorrow? Yep. Oh, and at 2, you've got to join the appeal call for your mother's hospital bills. She jerked her head up. What? My mother's bills? I thought those were resolved months ago. I sipped my coffee. They would have been if we'd paid $14,000 out of pocket. Instead, I've been fighting the insurance company for months to keep it out of collections. Her jaw dropped. 14,000? Uh-huh. Remember when I tried to tell you and you said you were too stressed to talk about it? You asked me to just handle it. So I did. Her face went pale. She pressed her hand to her mouth, then slowly lowered it, staring at the papers like they were radioactive. For the first time in this little experiment, I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Don't worry, I said. Breakfast is simple. The plumber will be here at 9 to check the upstairs shower leak. Make sure you get a firm quote, not just an estimate. Last time he tried to sneak in 300 in unexpected complications. At 9 sharp, the plumber arrived. I listened from the living room as Annabelle stumbled through the conversation. So, it's like pipes? With pressure? She stammered. Ma'am, you've got a regulator issue, he explained patiently. Just fix it. Whatever it costs. When he left, I asked, did you get a firm quote? She sank into a chair. No. He said he can't know until he opens the wall. I nodded. Congratulations. That's how you just approved a $1,200 surprise. Her shoulders slumped. I'm not cut out for this. Learning experience? I said cheerfully, handing her the phone. Now the bank needs confirmation for the $5,000 wire transfer. By noon, she was surrounded by sticky notes, papers, and half-drunk cups of coffee. Her hair was a mess, her eyes red from stress. The insurance appeal call was the final nail. The rep rattled off medical billing codes. Annabelle sat frozen, mouthing numbers she didn't understand. When the call ended, she looked at me like she'd been mugged. This is endless, she whispered. Every decision feels like it could ruin us. Exactly. That's the invisible weight you never saw. It's not just dishes or groceries. It's keeping all this from collapsing. At 4, the insurance agent came by for a policy review. Annabelle sat at the table nodding like a bobblehead while he talked about liability coverage. When he asked for decisions, she looked at me helplessly. She's learning the ropes, I said casually. When he left, she dropped her head onto the folder. How do you keep track of all this? How do you not lose your mind? I leaned back, folding my arms, because that's what building a life requires. Not complaining, just doing it. Her voice cracked. I had no idea. I know. And for the first time since this circus began, she reached across the table and grabbed my hand. No sarcasm, no pride, just raw humility. By the time day 4 rolled around, Annabelle was moving slower than a broken-down Corolla in rush hour. She sat at the kitchen table nursing her coffee like it was the only thing keeping her alive. The pride and fire from Sunday were long gone. I set a neat stack of notes in front of her. She flinched. What's this? She asked cautiously. Tonight's dinner, I said. Her brow furrowed. Dinner? I thought I just had to cook. Nope. We're hosting 6 of my colleagues at 7. 3 mechanics, 2 managers, and the regional director. It's been on the shared calendar for 3 weeks. Her fork clattered against her plate. You never told me about this. I didn't have to. You never checked the calendar. She froze. Wait, you expect me to cook for them? I smiled. Oh no, I've got the food covered. You're handling the people. Her face went pale. The people? Yep. Networking, smoothing out tensions, making sure nobody says anything stupid that gets me in trouble. Usually I handle it while you're in the kitchen. Tonight we swap. Her jaw dropped. Ron, that's not fair. I don't know anything about your coworkers. I slid the notes across the table. That's why I made you a cheat sheet. Background on each guest, their current projects, their career goals, who hates who, and what topics are landmines. She flipped through the pages, eyes wide. You prepare this much for a dinner party? Every time, I said, because these aren't dinner parties. They're career investments. Funding for my next quarter depends on the impression I make tonight. She stared at me, mouth open, then went silent. For once, no sarcastic comeback. At 7 sharp, the doorbell rang. I greeted everyone warmly, took their coats, and guided them to the living room where Annabelle was waiting with a glass of wine, clutched like a life preserver. I headed to the kitchen and began plating food, deliberately keeping one ear open. So, she started, voice a little too high, how's everyone's car stuff? The room went awkwardly quiet. One of the managers gave a polite chuckle. Busy as always. I winced. She tried again. I heard, the warranty process is getting easier? Mike, my lead mechanic, snorted into his beer. From the kitchen, I slid out appetizers with the grace of a man who knew he was about to watch a car crash in slow motion. Over the next 2 hours, Annabelle flailed like someone drowning in small talk. She tried to follow my notes but kept mixing people up. She asked the regional director about the wrong project. She congratulated the manager who had just been passed over for promotion. At one point, she brought up a policy change that divided the company, then froze when everyone turned to her for a diplomatic response. I, don't really have strong feelings about it, she stammered. Silence. Then the regional director raised an eyebrow, and I knew exactly what that tiny gesture meant. Disappointment. Dollars evaporating. Opportunity slipping away. When the last guest finally left around 10:30, Annabelle collapsed onto the couch like she'd been hit by a truck. How many of these dinners do you host? She asked quietly. 2 or 3 a month, I said, collecting glasses, plus lunch meetings and industry events. She rubbed her face with both hands. I always thought you were just socializing, having fun. Meanwhile, I was the one stuck with the hard part, food and cleaning. The food and cleaning are the easy part, I said, sitting beside her. The real work is managing people, protecting relationships, pushing the right buttons without offending the wrong ones. That's the exhausting part. And I do it every month. Her voice cracked. I failed tonight, didn't I? With the regional director? Yeah, that project would have meant a solid bonus. She closed her eyes, wincing. God, Ron. I had no idea. That's been the problem this whole time, I said gently. You counted hours and chores, but not the pressure or the consequences. You never saw the weight. She looked at me, eyes glassy with regret. I've been unfair to you. For years I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The silence said enough. By Friday morning, 5 days after that Sunday night in the garage, Annabelle looked like she'd been through boot camp and bankruptcy court at the same time. She shuffled into the kitchen in my oversized work shirt, clutching her coffee like it was the only thing tethering her to earth. The woman who'd strutted in full of confidence last weekend was gone. This version was pale, exhausted, and noticeably quieter. I slid a paper across the table. She flinched before even looking. What now? She croaked. Relax, I said. No warranty inspectors, no payroll spreadsheets, no parts suppliers. Just dinner. Her eyes widened. Dinner? Oh no, Ron, I can't host another one. I'm not doing Thursday all over again. I smirked. Calm down. I'm cooking. You just have to sit and eat. Maybe stay conscious if you can. She sagged into her chair, shoulders dropping. Don't mess with me like that. You wanted the full experience, I reminded her. Yeah, she muttered, staring into her mug. I regret everything. The truth was, by Friday, I didn't need to pile on. She had already cracked under the weight of Monday's chaos at the shop, Tuesday's crisis, Wednesday's financial minefield, and Thursday's social disaster. That night we had a simple dinner planned with two of our neighbors. Nothing compared to the minefield of colleagues she'd faced the night before. I watched her try to hold normal conversation while barely keeping her eyes open. She burned the chicken, forgot the salad in the fridge, and zoned out completely when our neighbor started talking about his new truck. When he finally asked her a direct question, she blinked, muttered something about stress at the shop, and excused herself to the kitchen. After the guests left, she slumped into a chair at the table and whispered, "I can't even manage small talk anymore. I'm done." I didn't rub it in. I just nodded. She needed to sit with the realization that even the easy parts of my life required energy and presence she no longer had to give. But there was one last thing she hadn't seen, the part she always dismissed when I tried to talk about it, the long game. So on Saturday morning, day 6, I didn't put another binder on the table. No bills, no sticky notes, no surprise inspections, just my laptop. She walked in cautiously, still in pajamas, hair sticking out in every direction. "What's this? Another torture device?" I shook my head and turned the screen toward her. A 5-year plan glowed back. Promotion tracks, salary growth, investment goals, even a house listing bookmarked in the corner. Her eyes widened. "You made this?" "Of course. Step 1 was the role I have now. Step 2 is regional manager, then director. If it all lines up, by year 5, we'll have the income for that house you keep pointing at every time we drive past the listings." She leaned closer, scrolling. "You planned all this?" "Since when?" "Since always," I said. "But every time I tried to show you, you said work talk stressed you out. So I kept it to myself." Her cheeks flushed. "I thought you were just working to pay bills." "I didn't realize you were building something exactly. You see me come home tired, you think I'm avoiding chores. But half those nights I'm here, planning, negotiating, lining things up. That's the real invisible work." She covered her mouth, staring at the screen. "Ron, I've been so blind." I clicked to the next slide, savings targets, retirement goals, even a chart for paying off the mortgage early. This is why I grind. Not just for today, but for what comes after. Her eyes glassed over. Not from exhaustion this time, but from guilt. She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Her voice was soft, stripped of all bravado. "I don't want to dismiss this again. I want to be part of it. I want to understand." I squeezed her hand lightly. "Tomorrow's the last day." Then we set the rules together. No more lectures, no more assumptions. Real partnership. For the first time all week, she didn't argue. She just nodded, eyes fixed on me, finally listening. Sunday morning arrived like a quiet victory lap. For the first time all week, Annabelle didn't even bother with the alarm. She rolled over, groaned, and said into the pillow, "Please tell me it's over." "It is," I said, sipping my coffee. 7 days. You made it." She sat up slowly, hair tangled, eyes heavy. "Barely." I set my mug down and looked at her. "So, what did you learn?" Her laugh was dry and humorless. "That I'm an idiot." Not quite the answer I was looking for. "Ron, I thought I carried this marriage with my invisible chores. Laundry, dishes, social calendars. I thought you just went to work, complained about customers, and left the real work to me." I was so wrong. I leaned back, folding my arms. "Go on." She rubbed her face, sighing. "I had no idea how heavy your load is. The shop, the employees, the clients, the bills, the insurance. God, the insurance. And then managing people at dinners, the future planning, all of it. I thought I was tired before this experiment. Now I know what tired really is." I stayed quiet. I wanted her to keep talking. Her voice cracked. "I mocked you for missing things around the house, for forgetting birthdays, for being distracted. I never stopped to think maybe you were holding back an avalanche every day just to keep us afloat." Finally, I spoke. "So what now? Do we just go back to normal? You nagging, me grinding, both of us resenting each other?" She shook her head so fast her messy bun wobbled. No, God, no, I don't ever want to go back to that. I want to share it. Not swap, not compete, share. Be a partner, not a critic. I studied her for a long moment. She was exhausted, humbled, but sincere. For once, the pride was gone. Here's the deal then, I said. No more talk about invisible work versus visible work. From now on, it's just work. We divide what makes sense. We respect what the other carries. And when one of us says it's heavy, we believe them. Tears welled in her eyes, but she nodded. Yes, please. Yes, I got up, poured her a cup of coffee, and slid it across the table. Congratulations. You graduated from Ron's School of Reality. 1-week crash course. She almost smiled, shaky but genuine. I never want to enroll again. Good, I said, smirking, because tuition just went up. For the first time in days, she laughed, a small, broken laugh, but real. And in that moment, I knew the experiment had worked. Not just to prove a point, but to reset everything between us. 7 days earlier, she'd walked into the garage full of fire, convinced she was about to win a war I didn't even know we were fighting. Now, on Sunday morning, she sat across from me, humbled, awake, and finally aware. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were actually on the same team. Weeks later, the house felt different. Not cleaner, not quieter, just lighter. Annabelle no longer rolled her eyes when I came home late, covered in grease and frustration. Instead, she poured me a glass of wine and asked, "Rough day?" and actually listened to the answer. I, in turn, stopped dismissing her reminders about groceries or social plans. When she asked me to handle something at home, I didn't shrug it off as small stuff. I knew better now. She learned to see the weight behind my long hours. I learned to see the weight behind her daily routines. And suddenly, everything balanced. The invisible became visible. The visible gained respect. We still argued. Marriage without arguments isn't real. But there was no contempt anymore. No "you have it easier" jabs, no smug assumptions. Just two people who had walked in each other's boots for one brutal week and come out wiser. Sometimes Annabelle jokes about it when she loads the dishwasher. "Remember when I thought this was hard?" she says, smirking. And I grin back. "Want to try the shop again?" She shudders. "Not in this lifetime." And that, honestly, is the best victory I could have asked for. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.